Check it back. How would you say LSU's defense performed this year?
I would say better than 2 years ago, but not much.
Better than 1 year ago.
Or sorry, 1 year ago, yeah.
But not much. So
not much.
You would say not very good.
I would say below average.
Okay. I probably would have said the same. I did a piece for LouisianaSports.net, which is going to be posted tomorrow, but this is the gist of it that I'm going to go through it in this segment, do it in video form and audio form. The numbers are really bad. I mean, really bad. And that surprised me a little bit because I didn't feel like as you mentioned, last year, I thought they had no chance, like ever. And I didn't really feel that way this year. I thought they had a chance. But the numbers are bad, and we'll go through them. In a 16-team league, LSU was 14th in the league in scoring defense, 24.3 points per game. They were 11th in total defense, 14th in yards per play allowed, and then tackles for loss, 13th in the SEC. And those numbers are all really, really poor. And then you go in to break them out into rushing and passing, and you can't even really delineate. They were 12th in the league in run defense. In terms of yard per carry allowed, they were 13th. Rushing touchdowns allowed, they were the worst in the SEC. They gave up 26. That's dead last. They were 10th in passing defense. They were 12th in completion percentage allowed, 12th in yards per attempt allowed. They intercepted the ball the fewest times in the league. All these numbers are down in the bottom 3 or 4 teams in the league. Maybe I'm just not on the same page as maybe some of you, or maybe I am, but it surprised me that the numbers were that stark. You were 7th in the SEC in sacks, and then in terms of explosives, it was not good. 20-plus yard plays, you were 13th. In 10-plus yard rushes, you were 12th. In 20-plus yard passes, so big plays through the air, you were 10th. On third down percentage allowed, you were 14th. In red zone touchdown percentage, you were 14th. It's pretty shocking. In this piece that I wrote for LouisianaSports.net, I laid out 22 statistics. LSU finished 10th or worse in 17 of the 22. And the only statistic that LSU's defense was top 3 in the SEC was fourth down defense, which I don't even know that you could take a lot from. I mean, how often do you have the opportunity to stop a fourth down? A couple of times a game? It's a huge play more often than not, but it's such a small sample size. And if you had told me in August that's what this would look like, I probably would have bought it. I think that a lot of you, especially if you're on Instagram or social media, can recall a segment I did that got a lot of views on Reels where I went on and was like, I don't think these guys can cover. And because we would go out to practice and it looked like pitch and catch for Nussmeier and the wide receivers. And I talked about it. And a lot of folks, barked back at me, suggesting that was stupid and that Corey Raymond was going to fix it and that Ashton Stamps was great and Zy Alexander was back. And I had concerns. And then early in the USC game, they did cover. And I thought against Ole Miss, they did a pretty good job. And outside of the big running plays against South Carolina, I thought they did a decent job. But when I start to look at these statistics and realize that you're in the bottom 3 or 4 in just about every defensive statistic, my presumption is that this has a lot more to do with Jimmys and Joes than X's and O's. The names that I rattled off in this written piece, and I just kind of pulled from recent memory. So when I look at LSU's defense this year, I just don't see Michael Brockers and Glenn Dorsey and Benny Logan on the interior. I don't see Kaylavon Chason or Kiki Mingo or Arden Key or Marcus Spears on the edge. I don't see Kevin Minter. I don't see Kendall Beckwith or Devin White. I don't see Patrick Queen. I don't see Patrick Peterson or Derek Stingley or Morris Claiborne or Tyrann Mathieu. I don't see Jamal Adams or Eric Reed or LaRon Landry. And you realize that I'm going through some of the greats of the last 20 years, which is the golden era of LSU football. But you had those guys on every team. I'm not going to do the exercise, but I can point to just about every team and pick a couple of guys on defense that played in the NFL for 6 or 7 years. And when I look at this defense, I just don't see it. Maybe Braden Swinson plays for a little bit and becomes a pass rush specialist. Maybe Savion Jones sticks around for a little bit. Harold Perkins didn't play much for this year, but maybe Zy Alexander surprises me and sticks on with a team. But you certainly didn't have any all-conference players outside of Whit Weeks. And you just, to me, didn't have the personnel of those classic LSU defenses. And that's what the difference has to be. I do think that Blake Baker can coach defense. I do think that Corey Raymond can develop corners. I do think Bo Davis can develop defensive linemen. I think Kevin Peoples did a really good job this year. I don't know a ton about Jake Olson, but I trust Blake Baker's acumen for dealing with the defense. They've got to go get dudes for this defense. And so let me lay out some names here, and we'll see if this is fixable from 2024 to 2025. I think these guys have a good chance to start for the next defense. And I'm not telling you they're going to win the Thorpe Award or the Nagurski Award, but could they be all-conference players? Could they be second-round picks? Jakeem Jackson, former 4-star recruit, sophomore starter at Florida. DJ Pickett, 5-star recruit. Harold Perkins, healthy. Patrick Payton, who's had as many sacks and tackles for loss in 3 years at Florida State as Kiki Mingo did at LSU. Whit Weeks in his third collegiate season. Dominic McKinley or Ahmad Bro in their second season with another year in the weight program. If you could tell me that a couple of those guys are first-team All-League players, well, all of a sudden this starts to feel a little bit different. And I realize that first-team All-League players come in better defenses and all that. It's a chicken and the egg type deal. But, like, I'm hopeful that you have found some of those great players who are eventual, 5-year starters in the NFL. Because without that, you can't compete. When you look at the top of the league this year, Texas and Tennessee were in the top 7 nationally in total defense. Georgia was 30th in the country in total defense, and they played a murderous schedule. If you play at the level LSU did, you have no chance to compete for championships. You can't compete for championships with the number 14 scoring defense in the SEC. You can't compete for championships finishing 13th in the SEC in tackles for loss. You can't compete for championships if you're 14th in the SEC in red zone touchdown percentage allowed, if you're 14th in the SEC in third down yardage allowed. You can't compete for championships in the SEC if you allow more 20-yard plays than 12 teams in the SEC. You just can't. And I thought as the dust settled on this team defensively that they were like, yeah, they were average. They weren't average. They were bad. And it's up to the staff now to determine why that was. Was that because you weren't prepared? Was that because your scheme was bad? Was that because your tackling was bad or your execution was bad? Or was that because you didn't have the guys capable of going out there and getting it done? Here are a couple of statistics that I want to harp on briefly that I think indicate the Jimmys and Joes aspect of this. LSU was 12th in the SEC in completion percentage allowed and dead last in interceptions. I think those statistics point straight to dudes. Because you just call the defense and you tell them to get in their stance and go play. Guys making plays on the football is not the scheme. It's not. Guys making plays on the football is guys who know how to make plays on the football. And in my estimation, LSU did not have enough of those guys this year. Jakeem Jackson, Mansour Delane, DJ Pickett, those are the guys that need to come in and push for spots. We'll see if they do. But that's a look at LSU's defense. Statistically, not good enough to be a championship-level team. And that's the expectation around here. Whether you think that's realistic or not in 2025, it's the expectation. We'll see if they can get there. Hey, thanks for watching Hunt on LSU. Before you get out of here, do us a couple of favors. Hit that like button, leave your comments below, and subscribe to the channel for all your Fighting Tiger football talk. See you next time.